Well, I'll tell you what, we spared no expense on that opening for our show. Hey, welcome to our very first show here. What do you know about sports? It's three of us, and we've talked about this for a little while here, and we're going to get it going here today. We are joined by Gary Jeffries, longtime university football and basketball coach in Canada here at the CIS and OUA, won a Vanier Cup in 2005. Played minor baseball for the Detroit Tigers organization in the 60s and has been a real big name in university sports here for most of his coaching career. Also joined by Lance Roberts, a longtime National Hockey League referee, refereed close to 600 games in the NHL, member of the NHL Officials Association, still involved as an off-ice official in the Canadian Hockey League, and has worked as a supervisor for Hockey Canada, Spengler Cup, and other things. And myself, Randy Steinman, a longtime radio and TV sportscaster here in Canada, about 40 years, and now retired. And the three of us have talked about this for a while. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. And how are we all doing today?
Doing good.
We're doing fine up here, Randy. This is great that we're getting this going, and I certainly look forward to it.
Yeah, this will be fun. Okay, so just to sort of let everybody know, we are recording this on November 21st, 2023. In case you're watching this at a later date, just to sort of give you a point of reference on where we are here in November of 2023. And the Grey Cup was held a couple of days ago. And Gary, you wanted to talk about that. Just another thrilling Grey Cup, as they always seem to be, or as they usually seem to be, with Montreal coming back to beat Winnipeg. What did you think of the game?
Oh, it was great. The Grey Cup never disappoints. It's always exciting. Generally right down to the last minute, as this one proved out to be again. There's so many great stories in this one. I don't think Montreal was given much of a chance by those who prognosticate, I guess. But I think they'd won about 7 or 8 in a row, including knocking off Toronto in the semifinal, who'd gone 16-2, I believe. So I honestly thought they did have a shot, but the storylines were great, and the Fajardo, the quarterback for Montreal, and how he'd been kind of ushered out of Saskatchewan, having failed in a couple of Western finals, and a lot of the onus for that was put on him, and so he was let go and resurfaced in Montreal. Montreal gave him an opportunity, and the kid came through, and he the talk was, Montreal's defense had to win this one or keep them close to have a chance, and they certainly were good and did a good job, but it wasn't just their defense. They had a great offensive day, and the Canadian kid. There's always a top Canadian, and he made the play with, I guess, 11 or 12 seconds to go in the game that got open and scored the winning touchdown. So it was a thrilling game, and as I say, the Grey Cup never seems to disappoint. I watched every minute of it. Had no desire whatsoever to turn on what was going on the American channels and with the NFL. And it's Canadian as it can be. The city of Hamilton did a wonderful job putting that thing on all week. I wasn't down there, but anybody that was that I've spoken to said it was a great week, and capped off by a great game. So good for Montreal. Good. It's been a great season at both levels, the university level and the CFL level.
Yeah, Why do you think the Grey Cup is always such a good game?
Oh, I just think our game and the CFL game, it's not just on Grey Cup Sunday. It's all season long. It's wide open. The field is large, and it's it's just the nature of the game, I think. And 3 downs, so you've got to throw the football. You're not just going to pound it. You've got to throw it, and we have some great athletes up here. It's a shame it's not coveted the way it should be. I don't think it's a great product, a great game. And what makes it more special for me is that there's 20 Canadians in every roster,
Right.
and kids that we've watched. Many of whom have gone through the Canadian university system, and to watch them go on and have success at the next level makes it very special. And so I just think it's the game itself, and it continues right into the Grey Cup, and it's always a beauty.
Yeah, yeah, and I just love that it's just coast to coast. I mean, Lance, you grew up in Western Canada, and I can only imagine, back when you were a teenager, how big the Grey Cup was to a kid,
Huge. Yeah.
kid in Alberta.
Then with the Eskimos were a big deal, and then when they won 5 in a row, it was quite a thing for that city in regards to the Edmonton Eskimos. But I watching the thing about that game was I think that's the second year in a row that Winnipeg's lost in the Grey Cup. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah,
but
it is.
They've had some tough runs in that Grey Cup. Winnipeg, it's tough. Another tough loss for them in that game. And I think the thing about the CFL that's really interesting is there are a lot of, as much, with it's not really a minor league to the NFL, but there's a lot of football players that have come out of that CFL to go on and have great careers in the NFL, which is an interesting thing that happens sometimes, and it's fun to watch that. But it's all across the country. It's a big deal. It really is. It's the parties are big, and there's a lot of excitement, I think, in any city that has a CFL team.
Yeah. What I really love about it too is, and this isn't obviously by design, this is just the way it worked out, but I was looking back at previous Grey Cup winners, and from 2010 to 2016, there were 7 different winners. There were seven different organizations won the Grey Cup over the course of those 7 years, which is, I mean, it's just great. It's not like a team has like an incredibly long drought where the fan base just can never get excited. Everybody seems to have had a Grey Cup win other than Hamilton in the last 12 years or so. And that keeps the fan base, interested and encouraged when you've got a Grey Cup champion to cheer for.
Well, I think the thing about the Grey Cup,
I didn't realize that, but that's great. There was talk of Winnipeg here and dynasty, and win or lose, they might still be that. That's 4 consecutive Grey Cups that they've been in.
Right.
Won the first 2 and then lost it to Toronto last year, right? The field goal that got blocked by a Laurier kid, by the way, and then this year's loss. But that's a great program that Mike O'Shea has put together out there in Winnipeg. But it's great to see Montreal. I don't think they'd won since 2010. Is that?
That's right.
I think that's what they were saying, and that's their 8th Grey Cup in their history, and so that's a big deal. I saw them coming off the plane this morning on Sportsnet, and looked like the party was still going. And I think they have a parade down there in Montreal today. So the other thing about the CFL, I touched on Canadian kids, and how wonderful it is to see Canadian kids getting an opportunity at quarterback. Nathan Rourke last year out in Vancouver, he lit it up. He did things that no quarterback has done since Russ Jackson, no Canadian kid anyhow, since Russ Jackson, and probably surpassed the stuff that some of the things that Russ did. And Lance, you mentioned how going down to the States, and he's down there now in Jacksonville, and I hope he gets an opportunity down there. But if not, come on back up here, and let's get him going up here. And we got Trey Ford in Edmonton. We've got some kids playing right now at university level. I'd love to see go on to the next level. Our kid at Laurier, Taylor Elgersma. He has to be a prospect, in my view. And the kid I watched the other day from Montreal, Senegal, I believe it is. Have to check that. But anyhow, it's wonderful to see our Canadian kids do well, to go down the States, and that's great. But I like to see them all up here, and let's let them go up here. And the Canadian aspect is special.
One of the things about the Canadian, the CFL Grey Cup is some of the conditions they've played at in the past were, the field conditions, the weather conditions, different things like that the game goes on no matter what kind of thing, and blizzards and stuff. So that's part of the Canadian CFL history of the Grey Cup is, you look back to the old Ice Bowl there, the field was all icy and they got some guys put spikes on their shoes.
Staples. Like that was Montreal. Staples
was
on the
Montreal.
Sonny Wade was a quarterback. I remember that.
Yeah.
The Fog Bowl. The Fog Bowl and Bibbles Bobbles running down the sideline and got tripped by somebody on the sideline. And there's some history that was really outstanding. It's great stuff. I can remember way back, the Grey Cup was a huge deal in Canada, much like the Super Bowl now. You had Super Bowl parties. I don't know if we have the Grey Cup parties that we used to have, but I can remember we had people in our neighborhood in Burlington, a Grey Cup. They wanted to be outside. So they built some bleachers, had some bleachers outside, and they got the TV outside, and they watched it out there. The day that I remember they did that, it wasn't very nice. It was cold, but just the excitement over it and the Canadiana of it. That's what we used to do. And I think we've lost that a little bit, but. Anyhow, it'd be nice to see that kind of excitement for the Grey Cup match what the excitement is for the Super Bowl. We went into the local bar here, the Walker House, a couple of years ago, and we couldn't find the Grey Cup. 7, 8, 10 TVs in there, and it's all NFL. And we had to say, hey, come on, let's get one TV at least. With our game on there, and they threw it on, and by the end of the game, most of the people in there were watching the Grey Cup.
Yeah.
But so I'd love to see that come back.
Yeah. Well, I remember as a kid collecting CFL football cards, OPG. That was as big a deal back in the 60s as it was to collect hockey cards. And I remember, my first memories of Grey Cups are probably around 60, 68, 69. I think Russ Jackson played in a couple of them in those years, and for Ottawa. And everyone was talking about Grey Cup. I remember being in a hockey dressing room on Grey Cup Day, and all the kids, we were all about 9 years old, and we're all talking about the Grey Cup game that day. So hopefully that can come back. Gary, I was going to mention when I was just sort of looking up the history of the Grey Cup a little bit, I noticed that in 1934 and 1936, a team from Sarnia won it. And I'm in Chatham here, so an hour away. It's pretty cool that a team from Sarnia, Ontario, the Sarnia Imperials, won the Grey Cup in 34 and 36. And I'm just wondering if you were at either of those games. Do you remember those?
I was actually going to ask you if being from the area, if you saw them. I wasn't there.
No.
But no, that's a pretty interesting stat.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's
all back.
but you talk about the Canadiana, and that's pretty cool that a team from Sarnia, Ontario, was a two-time Grey Cup champion in the 1930s. I mean, it's sure 90 years ago, but it's still got that history as part of the town. And
Yeah.
I mean, the Grey Cup goes back to 1909.
110. Yeah, this was 110th. Yeah.
Yeah, University of Toronto won the first 3 Grey Cups. So
Oh
yeah. So anyway, very cool. We'll move on. Lance, you want to talk today, and just we should probably say every week one of us is going to bring a topic to the table here. And Lance, you want to talk about an upgrade in equipment and training, and for players in real physical sports, and has that upgrade in the equipment caused an increase in severe injuries? And I'm sure you, being a former NHL ref, you probably witnessed some pretty bad injuries firsthand.
Well, it's interesting. I guess it was sparked by the young fella, the hockey player in in England who unfortunately caught that player in the throat and has that going on now with him and being charged. And one of the things that came out to me is that the blade now of the skate, I didn't even know this. I was told by someone who knows skates, and they're titanium now. A lot of the players are wearing titanium skates, which you can make them sharper. Which got me thinking. Like a lot of like when the player got hurt in that game with Buffalo, and they had him on the field and had to get him off the field and stuff. I'm just thinking, like, is the helmet stronger, harder? The equipment now, is it made the players more, that they don't understand how hard they're hitting somebody, and the players that are now, they're all like in hockey, they've got the face mask on, they're all geared up, that they don't have the fear as much as they used to. I know that when they brought this face mask in, the game went from down below the waist to coming up with sticks higher, and less respect for the player going into the boards, till we brought in different rules to take care of that. So it's interesting to see the evolution through the game in games of physical like football and hockey, where as we make the equipment better, stronger, more protective, the more I think this, in some situations, it puts them more in the danger of being hurt, injured, even worse. I didn't know. I kind of thought about that, and I thought that, are we making the game safer with all this equipment, or are we making it more dangerous at times for the players on the field? Yeah. And with the football, I don't know how much they've increased their ability, but training-wise, I think that they're at such a high level trained that they're bigger, faster, stronger. And when they go to hit somebody, they don't really realize that how much inertia force they're putting into hitting a person. And I think there's a lot of injuries are because of this, and going on in those sports. So I don't know, what do you think, Gary, about football? Is the equipment getting more and more in a battle warrior type situation where they're much stronger?
Well, I think you nailed it when you said bigger, faster, stronger. I think that's that's basically what it is. The kids are just so big and strong, and the force with which they hit is like never before. I think too that the helmets they've come a long way, and certainly a long way from when we played. And so maybe they feel invincible when they put that equipment on. But I watched our kids this year, the Laurier team, and our secondary. I mean, they've got 5 kids back there. They absolutely they come up and they will hit you, and with no, it sometimes seems with no regard for their body or their safety, I'm not sure that, I think maybe I've heard in hockey, with the elbow pads and things like that, and the plastic, and You'd know better, Lance, that there's injuries because of the protection that they're wearing. I'm not so sure in football it's because of the equipment. I think it's more because of the kids that just hit hard.
Well, I think too in hockey that they're also training at a higher level, and the speed of the game is at the highest level I've ever seen it now. And we don't have, the rules have now gotten tighter for slowing players down and hooking and holding and those types of things as they did in the old days to pull a guy back before he could hammer a guy into the boards. And I think sometimes that's even part of the situation where, players coming in to take a player are coming at a speed that they don't really feel that they're going that fast. And then you hit the player into the boards at the back end when the guy's trying to get the puck. Those are dangerous hits, which we have to penalize if it's to the back. But it was funny. I wrote a thesis way back when I was becoming at a level 6 seminar that I tamed my level 6 for Hockey Canada. And in that, basically, it had the pros and cons of the face mask, coming into the game, and what were the pros and cons of not having the face mask to having the face mask. And I mean, we want to have players safer, but in regards to putting the face mask on. But two things happened when they put the face mask on players in the game. The game went from the waist up, like I said, but we used to always back up and take a player. Now they go at him, as opposed to the fact of taking him and riding him off or angling him. They'll go right to them sometimes, and then with no fear because they have the face mask on. So I kind of thought to myself, I looked at it and I said, we may have saved the player from losing an eye, but we put a player in a position now that gets hit with the way they play to be put in a wheelchair for life. So what was the trade-off there? I don't know sometimes when I think about how the game's evolved, but I think with more rules and stuff, we do have I think the game is still controlled a lot better than it used to be in many ways. It's a different game now, but the training and the severity, and I see so many injuries of players getting injured in different situations just based on the fact that it's such a physical game as it is. But I just think there's a different mindset of when you go to hit somebody that you're not really, when we used to play hockey, and I'm not sure football was, you always had the respect of the player you're going to hit in some fashion. But now I think because they feel they're so safe with them that they can take it to another level, So I didn't know if that was part of it. And the player that had that happen, I don't know if a titanium blade or a different blade would have made a difference for that man that died in that situation. But I do know that there's so much skepticism now about did he do it on purpose or didn't do it on purpose. It's reckless for sure, but it's an unfortunate situation all around.
Yeah, I'm just curious, and this wasn't so much an injury. I think as a heart condition where that Buffalo Bills player collapsed in Cincinnati their last season in a game, and they had to cancel the rest of the game and was never replayed. Did either one of you ever have a game that you were involved in that had such a bad injury that the game had to be canceled at that moment?
Thank God, no. I've thought back many times with all the practices, going back over 40 years of football, and practices and games and all that physicality. That was so fortunate to never see an injury like that. We did have a kid from actually from the Sioux, a kid named Tom Annette. He cracked a bone in his back, in his vertebrae, and he actually played. We saw the hit; it was right in front of the bench. He came off. And then the next series went back on, and we're so fortunate that we got him out of the game, and after the game went to the hospital and found out that there actually was a cracked vertebrae. But that's as serious as what I'd ever seen, and so I'm very, very fortunate that that's the case.
Yeah.
I've had two that were really come to mind. Well, actually, there was even a third one that I wasn't doing that game, but I had the game with Devereaux when he got hit by Dallas Drake, and we thought that we had the doctors on the ice, we had all that happen, but he was okay. We took him off on a stretcher and game on. It's funny in hockey. I watched that player get hurt in that game, and they shut the game down, and and total respect for what the league did in that. But hockey, it's interesting in hockey where when Devereaux was hit, we all were worried. The doctor came out and I think basically saved his life. I think he swallowed his tongue on the hit, and we put him on a gurney, and he went off the ice, and we just face off over there, and away we go, right? And I had another one in Sydney where a young man just basically nearly lost his life going into the boards. He hit his neck. He he got his breath going, and the trainers came out, and we had, basically took him off the ice and game on again. It's Clint Malarchuk when he got his throat slit that one time.
Yeah.
In net, we just sort of scraped the blood all away, and away we went again. So hockey is kind of funny that players go down like that, and we really keep. We haven't really stopped the game for that. We just sort of go on with the game in some ways. But I've seen some pretty serious injuries to some players for sure. And it's scary when it happens. And like when I was on the ice there, the one thing as a referee, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what to do. Primarily in those situations, you got to get a trainer there quickly. And it's watching that man bring the breath back into by himself it was just a shocking thing to see, right? And the one with Devereaux was another one that really strikes home when you see something like that happen. It's a tough one to get. It's a tough one in that way, and that's why I think that players today there's a bit more respect factor in some situations, but when the intensity goes to a higher level, it's still a dangerous sport at times. And it's funny because they want to put players out there with face mask and on an eighth of an inch of a blade with a stick in their hands going at Mach 5, and they don't want anybody to get hurt. And I go, like, how can you think like that? Because someone's going to get hurt. At some point in time, someone does get hurt in the game of hockey as much as they do in football, because that's part of playing a physical sport. But when it happens, there's a major uproar about it. It's just everybody wants to change the rules, change the game, and it's never going to change that way. So.
Yeah,
I think the best we can do, really, without changing the sports, as you say, is the teaching and the coaching, and how we teach it. With football, we try like heck, to avoid hitting with the head, leading with the head. Headshots are now penalized severely, whereas in the past, they were looked on as great hits. But I think the coaching, the teaching, hitting with the shoulder as the prime, the prime point, rather than the head or the helmet, using it as a weapon, and so. I think we do a great job of that. Are there times that that there's we're going to go outside that and there's still going to be headshots? Yeah, you're right. You're right, Lance. It's a physical game. They're both physical games, and sometimes they're going to happen. But that's what you sign up for. If you're going to play, you're not going to play differently. So we just have to teach it well, and then we'll see what develops then. But there's always going to be injury.
The quarterbacks are the worst. I think that's the toughest position. They hit a lot. I don't think people realize how much quarterbacks get hit. I'm watching that documentary on it on Nexus there, and it's like it's Netflix. It's like of all the sports, I think in any sport, I think the most critical person on a team is the quarterback, and the most dangerous position for them to play is the quarterback. In some ways, they're meant to be hit. Yeah,
that's right, and we try to protect them as best we can, and even low hits now. These are rules that have come in the last 10 years. That's now penalized. That we try to protect their legs and their knees and certainly headshots. But they've got the ball, if you've got the ball, that's that's what we're going after, the guy with the ball. And, it's the same in hockey. If you've got the puck, you're going to get hit. So
that's why I didn't have the puck very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't want the ball or the puck, you probably shouldn't be playing.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, if you're playing professional sport, you've got to love to have the puck on your stick or the ball in your hands. Um, that's part of what has made you the type of player that's going to get to that level. You're not getting there by being afraid out there.
No.
All right. Well, I just want to touch on one subject here before we wrap this show up. It was sort of the end of an era recently in Kitchener, where we've both spent a lot of time. And Lance, you continue to live in Kitchener Waterloo, but the TV station there, now CTV Kitchener, was very well known as CKCO, has officially left the building. The building that they were in since they went on the air back in 1954. They moved locations recently, and I just wanted to just sort of maybe even give a bit of a shout out to some of the sports guys that worked there over the years and did such a great job of bringing local and regional sports to really all of Southern Ontario. And it was, a bit of a bittersweet thing for me to find out that this station had picked up and left the building, because I worked there myself for about 30 years. I was there in 80 and 81 as a young radio guy just out of college, and then again from 1989 until when I left there about 4 years ago in 2019. But guys like Bill Inkall and Jeff Hutchison, Don Cameron, who was, Lance, I still think that guy should be in the broadcasters wing of the Hockey Hall of Fame for what he did for junior hockey over the years.
Oh, absolutely, Randy. Yeah.
But Wayne Koyman worked there, and I don't know if you guys remember Mark Hebscher, who was on that Global Sportsline show with Jim Taddy there for years and years.
What a great show.
Mark Hebscher worked at CKCO back in the day too. So lots of terrific sportscasters. I was really honored to work with most of those guys. I didn't ever work with Hebscher, but the rest I sure did. And even there in more recent years, Darren Stevenson and Jamie Killingsworth and people like that. And, what an honor it was. It's just sort of a shame that, I still call it we. It's a shame that station, doesn't have a local sports presence anymore. And it's just sort of a shame too that station has picked up and moved to another building. But I know both of you guys spent some time there, and you know what that building meant to the region's media for years and years.
I used to love it when I was coaching St. David's High School, the hockey team. We had lots of times we'd come out and cover the games and stuff. And one of the interesting times with that was I had a young fellow on the team that he was not the best player on our team, and the guys loved him and everything. We were in the playoffs, and he scored the winning goal, and you guys had that on the TV the broadcast for that day or that night or
yeah.
And it was broadcasted. Our team was so excited for that kid. I don't know if he went up. I didn't have him next to the team, but I don't know if he kept playing or not. But he was. That was a pretty exciting moment for him, and that's locally wise. We don't have that anymore at all. It's kind of not. It's kind of it's missed a lot by the people in the area to have that type of exposure for their kids playing in the sports. I think it's Darren Stevenson has the sort of a podcast going that he keeps covering games and stuff. I see him in the rink all the time, which is wonderful.
Yeah,
what you guys did for locally was awesome, and not just for the high school, but for the local universities, for UW and Laurier and Guelph, we look forward every week to Darren coming to practice, and and do an interview with you back in the station, and the fun we'd have with that. But it was so great for the community, and I know Darren is doing that now with his 911, I guess it is, podcast.
Yeah, 519.
Or 519, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, not 911.
No, it's not not an emergency.
Some nights
I
it
knew
is.
there were three numbers.
Yeah.
But I guess I think he's doing a good job with that, and good for him for carrying on. And I remember Jeff Hutchison. Hutch was he's quite a character, and again a big supporter of local sport. So
Yeah.
you guys are missed. There's no question.
Well, it's not only that. I'm thinking more almost like just the building. Everyone knew where the station was, right across the street from the hospital there, and now it's moved up to some very a much smaller space up in the old Lulu's building up on Highway 8 there near the 401. That's where they're now located, and
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's it's just when I think about the history of that building, like I said, they went on the air in 1954, and back in 1954 there were not a lot of Canadian television stations, let alone Ontario television stations. So that was a real thing for Kitchener Waterloo and that area to have its own TV station. And I remember as a kid, I was, I think, 6 when I set foot in that building for the first time. There was a guy who used to play cartoons. I don't know if you remember his show. His name was Big Al.
Yeah.
And he had
Big Al.
Yeah, he had a cartoon show. Yeah, Lance, you wouldn't have lived here back then, but
Big Al.
he had a cartoon show that we would run home from school at noon every day, and watch Big Al cartoons. And he also had a sort of a kids show where kids would come on if they were celebrating birthdays. And I remember going there when I was about 6 years old into that building, and for my birthday, my 6th birthday. And I still remember, thinking how big the studio was and how cool it was for all the lights to be up on the ceiling. And, obviously little did I know that I was going to spend the majority of my career in that building. But it was just not a disappointment for me. And it certainly wasn't a surprise to hear that the station has moved and is no longer located there, and I'm not even sure what's going to happen with that station now. The LRT goes right past there, so it's in a prime location in Kitchener there. But that'll just be curious to see what happens to that station moving forward.
The best part of that
was cool. Sorry, go ahead, Lance.
Oh, go ahead. No, you finish up.
No, I just going to say it was cool that it's downtown core. It's a shame that it's moved now out to the 401. I think it was great that the location that it was at, and it's a shame they couldn't maintain that.
I was just going to say that the best part of that building is when I used to call your office and you go sports, and I'd say, "What do you know about sports?" And that's what this show's called. What do you know about sports?
Yeah, we've stolen the name of the show from your constant harassment of me, Lance.
I loved it. I thought it was funny, anyways.
All right, guys. Well, thanks. This has been great. Again, first attempt at this, and we'll make some improvements along the way. And this has been fun. Thanks. Any thoughts as we wrap this up, and look forward to maybe doing a few more of these, hopefully every week for a little while here.
Well, this was good fun, Randy and Lance. There's no end of topics I'm sure that we can touch on. So thanks very much for coming up with this idea, and hopefully we can keep it going.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. We could spend Tuesday mornings. If nobody watches it, at least we can think we can still have fun talking, anyways, reminiscent. So
Yeah,
it's all good.
great to connect with you guys. All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Okay, take care.